Sometimes when I look back at my life, and I'm seriously impressed that I'm still alive. How to tell if you were raised old school. Whenever you did something stupid or got hurt, was it A, oh my God, are you okay? Or B, bet you won't do that again, huh? Type A or B in the comments below. Back in my day, this meant get your home right now. More Dukes, less Kardashians. Is My Child Stupid? By Peter Lawrence. The World. Why is everything so messed up these days? Gen X. Called it. I just remembered that Ghostbusters began my hatred for bureaucrats and regulatory abuse. 1 point if you can say what is happening in this scene. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. Axl Rose. Biddy Hill. You're welcome. Me. Stands up really fast. My entire body. Sometimes. Never judge a book by its cover. Except that one. Seriously, put it down. 1 point if you can name this movie. What people think growing up in the 80s was like. What it was actually like. Yes, that is absolutely true. In all the movies and things, you see stuff like the top image. I don't know if that's picking up on the mic, but my dog's dreaming. You okay, buddy? Was he dreaming? Yeah. Anyway, how many of you guys knew about this? When Crispin Glover was replaced by a lookalike in Back to the Future 2. The actor declined to reprise his role as the eccentric George McFly in sequels. Audiences were fooled into believing he had. I'd read about this before, and there was someone that summed it up pretty good. They got a replacement actor to play Crispin Glover playing George McFly. How you left work Friday. How you show up Monday. I asked him for a gift that lasts a lifetime. He bought me Big Red. I'm glad this is just a meme. Late millennials and the generations that followed, learning about Chad Generation X. How can they eat gluten? Why aren't they offended by everything? Why is their music so good? How can they distinguish between a man and a woman? You know, just the fact that this is a meme just shows how sad today's society is. We didn't have Uber Eats or DoorDash in the 80s and 90s. We had the Swan's ice cream trucks. That's true. Although, I've never lived in a place that Uber Eats or DoorDash ever delivered to. I'm way too far away from the city, and that's just how I like it. Footloose 40th anniversary, remembering the iconic theme song and soundtrack. Footloose is ranked as one of the best 80s movies and is responsible for the amazing theme song that spans generations. Does anyone remember this delicious gum? It lasted just about as long as Zebra Stripe. Great for 30 seconds and then you spit it out. Why was that a thing with gums back then? Any of it that was any good, that's pretty much the limit of how long it lasted. Some of them didn't last that long. Control to Major Tom. Only some people will get this.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
I don't know who made this, but that's just funny. In my opinion, soda tasted better in glass bottles. That's because the plastic wasn't leaching chemicals into it. And it was made of real sugar. and not high fructose corn syrup, and the other list of ingredients that you can't even pronounce. My kids, how cool were you in school? Me, this cool. Yeah, I don't know why this became a thing. It's like the opposite end of the spectrum from bell bottoms. I wonder how many billion it is now. Or are they closer to the national debt now? I can't wait until I'm grown. Was the dumbest thing I ever said. I'm this old. Select all the squares that match the label, Sarah Connor. Good try, AI. I'm not going to help you recognize the mother of the rebel resistance. If I was the guy making these captcha things, I'd be making things like this. Okay, I'm going to show this slide, but first, I need a promise from you guys. If you follow the instructions given on this slide, you're making a promise that after you're done, you'll come back and finish watching the video. Okay? Alright, here we go. Go to Google and search for O'Reilly Auto Parts. It'll bring up the link, click on it, go to their homepage. Once you're on their website, enter part number 121G into the search box and hit enter. You'll thank me later. Okay? I'm going to leave this up for a couple of seconds here so you can pause the video, go do this, and then come back and finish watching the video. Alright, you're back now? How did you like that? I thought that was a pretty cool Easter egg hidden by O'Reilly's. I just thought of something I'm going to do the next time I go to O'Reilly's. And you guys might think about doing it too. When you go up to the counter and ask what they can help you with, tell them you have a part number and you want to see if they got it in stock or if they can order it. And then give them that number, 121G. It would make us even more hilarious if it actually comes up on their own computers. The first man in history to ever hear Eddie Van Halen. 1 point if your school had a smoking area too. We had self-driving technology back in the 80s. Say hello to Christine. What's the first song you're playing on these speakers? Millennials and boomers going at it again. Gen X be like,
whatever.
Who remembers McDonaldland cookies? They were kind of like animal crackers. My high school was weird because it looked like the Millennium Falcon. Just think of the architect that was paid to design all of this, literally laughing all the way to the bank about how he trolled the school and the entire community. A church built a massive baby Jesus statue that looks exactly like Phil Collins. I don't know why in the world they would make something like this in the first place. I mean, it literally is a graven image. But it does look exactly like Phil Collins. Ric Flair is 75 today. When they finally make memes with material from your generation. The Super Bowl halftime show that we all really wanted. I didn't watch the Super Bowl, like I said in the past video. I'm gonna pay for a subscription just to see it. With that said, if this would have been the halftime show, I guarantee you I'd have been on YouTube to see it as soon as it got posted. I grew up always being outside barefoot. You like to cover your hands with glue, just to peel it off again. Then you could look at all the detail of your hand and fingerprints. It's storming outside. Unplug the TV. Get off the phone. Get out of the shower. Here's something the younger generations won't understand. Anytime there was a storm, why did you have to get out of the shower? If you think you know, punch a bunch of keys and drop your answer in the comments. The original high chair at all family gatherings. And if one wasn't enough, you probably had 2 or 3 laying around. Today's kids will never know. You get into life with one of these. I don't know about that, but you could definitely put somebody's eye out. Regardless, they sure smarted sometimes. The original car phone. Kids today will never know the joy of finding money in the coin return. This is something I hadn't thought of in a long time. But yeah, we used to always go around and check see if we could find any change. And people think stepping on Legos are bad. Back in the day, if I wanted to download a song, I used to sit with my old tape recorder next to the radio and wait for a cool song, then hit record. I had a few tapes that were recorded that way, but they're really crappy quality when you do it like that. It was a whole lot better to use a stereo or a boombox like this and be able to record directly from the radio to the cassette. I didn't finish reading my book in time. No free personal pan pizza. Yeah, I was really sad when that happened. Dear Google, this and not this. Pretty sure that's one of the Google Map Street View cars with the cameras on it. R2-D2. He was so vulgar, they bleeped out every word he said. Well, you can't prove him wrong. A cardboard box was the best toy ever. Especially when it was big boxes like this. When you bought your riding lawnmower and it came in a cardboard box. Some assembly may have been required. Back then, that wouldn't have been an issue for the vast majority of men, but it would definitely be an issue these days. How many of you know where this is from? This should be a pretty easy one for most of you. What is something you used to do as a child that you wish you could still do? I wish I could remember things and have my health back. Teenagers nowadays will never understand our craft. My truck don't have either of these. I actually use a portable Bluetooth speaker in my cell phone. In the 80s, kids built forts, played outside, built booby traps, and brought home wild animals. And took wild animals to school, too. I can't even remember all the different ones that I took to science class. Everything from tadpoles to frogs, crawfish, even some small fish. And there was one time I even took a small snake. It was a kind of snake that was around our property, and some of them got really large. I even stepped on a full-grown one barefooted while weed eating down by the creek one day. It was about 6 feet long. And when I stepped on it, it jumped up off the ground from both ends. As soon as I stepped off of it, it took off like a bat out of hell. So I caught a smaller one and took it to my science class the next day, because I knew my science teacher was really good at identifying different snake species. Found out they were northern pine snakes. My dad had this exact same set. As a matter of fact, I still have it sitting in a drawer. I showed a slightly different version of these in a past video, and I asked if anyone knew what they were. There was a few correct answers that came back, saying it was an ice tray. You'd pull the lever, and it would move all the little metal pieces down through there, breaking apart the individual ice cubes loose from the tray. One of my grandmothers had a bunch of these in her freezer. Who else loved doing this as a child? I'm not sure what country those coins came from, but I think we all done this. Remember saving your pictures like this? You ever come back to an old photo album years and years later, and you go to pull back the clear plastic that's holding the pictures in place, and the pictures are stuck to it and peels off part of it? Remember before caller ID, when you had to dial *69 to see who called? Yeah, I remember when that came along. When they first started it, you had to pay for that just by itself. Just like they had call waiting and other things, all individual. Eventually they bundled them all together so you could pay like $5 a month for all of it. Who remembers these in the classroom? How many of you remember the original blackboards before they turned them green? I love driving in the winter because I pretend I'm flying the Millennium Falcon. I've actually thought of this when I'm driving through the snow before. You only get this effect if it's at night and you turn on your high beams. If your aunt didn't have one of these, then you're not old enough to like this picture. Police report that when they removed this boulder, there was an unalived coyote underneath it. Witnesses say they saw a roadrunner leaving the scene. All joking aside, I couldn't imagine what it would have looked like if there'd have been a car right there when I'd hit the ground. I'm a wooden spoon, lead paint, no car seat, no seat belt, no bike helmet, bed of pickup riding, garden hose drinking, survivor. This I don't miss. That is true. When your cassette tape turned into a bird's nest. And then you spent the next hour rewinding it while trying to minimize the damage to the tape. I just boxed up one of these a couple months ago. Looks almost identical except for the paint color. My pop's finally beating Super Mario Bros. In 1988. The Nintendo was a present for me and my sister. Who is old enough to remember when you needed 2 keys for one car? Yeah, and it always annoyed the heck out of me. I'm thankful that on my 86 truck, that the door locks and ignition all match to the same key. One of the door locks is a little bit messed up, but I'm not gonna change it because I don't want 2 keys. You guys had Jersey Shore. We had Polly Shore. We are not the same. I just realized I read that wrong, but I actually said it correctly. I've never even saw that show, but whoever made this meme is the one that has it wrong. Today's generation has no idea who lived here. If you think you know, smash the correct letters to make up your answer and drop it in the comments below. You know you're a child of the 80s if Ubu never set. Most of you guys will know what this means. I think I could probably find some practical uses for these days. Change is not always better. The 80s had a lot of things right. I think most of us can agree. A rare picture of the entire Prince band in one studio. I decided to watch the original Transformers film to see if I would like it. And holy shit. My grandmother had a clock that looked almost exactly like this. Why did my mom make me think it was illegal to turn a light on in a car while you were driving for my whole childhood? I actually had someone comment on a past video who was asking, "It is illegal, isn't it? Right?" Have I been lied to my whole life? That was just funny. I had a good chuckle out of that one. One of my students really wrote a sentence that begins, "In the late 1900s, I had to reread it 3 times to realize what the heck was going on. My feelings are hurt." I never thought of it that way. Those born after 2000 think of the 1990s as the last century. We're really getting old, guys. If you know why the corner is taped, you are officially old. Heck, if you know what a cassette tape is, you're old, let alone why we taped over the corners. And if you didn't have any tape, you'd stuff paper in it or something like some of you guys said on a past video. He liked cats before it got mainstream. Yeah, before cat videos went viral on YouTube. Heck, one of my earliest videos on the channel is a cat video. I also have a dog video, along with a lot of other odd and end topics. This picture makes me so sad. It's like looking at the Pieta. I don't know how you pronounce that. I didn't even know what it was. I had to look it up. Some statue that Michelangelo made. And he didn't even include a single slice of pizza. You 40 years ago. Ah, so 1960. No, 1980. No. The original Chuck E. Cheese definitely looks like he'd tell a child while ashing his cigar on their pizza. You can bring back one TV show. What do you choose? This is actually a pretty hard one because there's a lot of right answers, but I'm gonna go with MacGyver. If it was the original MacGyver, not this one they tried to remake here in the last year or so. When I was a kid, these guys ruled the TV. These guys were always funny, especially their sarcasm. The Smashing Pumpkins wrote the song 1979 in 1995. That's equivalent to a band today writing a hit song called 2008. No one asked you for this math, sir. I do not appreciate this math. Yeah, you millennials are getting old too. You're not too far behind some of Gen X. No helmet, no elbow pads, no shin guards. Just a boy and his bike. That's how we rolled in the 80s. That almost looks like a pre-built ramp. Either that or they built a pretty nice ramp and painted it. He's just getting back in time. On the last episode of this Gen X and Millennial series, I told everyone about a little Easter egg that was on the O'Reilly's Auto Parts website. If you go to their website and type in the search box, part number 121G, you will see this. The flux capacitor. It even has a detailed description down here at the bottom. I just thought this was great that O'Reilly's done this. I stop at O'Reilly's every once in a while, and the next time I go in there, I'm going to tell them I need this part number. It'd be hilarious if it actually comes up on their store computers. Tesla burnout. Mopar burnout. Yeah, this is very true. Have you guys seen some of the photos and things of all these Teslas catching on fire? Firefighters hate them. They can't even hardly put them out. When I was a kid, we didn't have bottled water. We had a garden hose. Share this video if you remember.
No disassemble!
Speed checked by radar. That's the only kind we need. For those hard-to-reach children in the back seat. This was GoFundMe when I was a kid. Yes, it absolutely was. In the 70s, we didn't have YouTube to listen to our favorite song. We had radio stations with real live DJs who took our song request and dedication. And if we were lucky, they'd play it on the radio. If your phone cord could reach 4 different rooms and outside, your teenage years were awesome. And we had a phone that hung on the wall that had a really long cord. Not only could you reach the kitchen, living room, and dining room, you could walk halfway down the hallway with it too. I can't remember when it was, but at one point in time I had this exact same stereo. 37 years ago today, License to Ill was the #1 album. For some reason, it's just hard to believe that Beastie Boys has been around that long. Driving to work on a Monday morning, like, why do you have to deal with some of these idiots that's on the road these days? This is pretty much true. How many of you guys know what this is and what it is used for? If you think you know, hit a bunch of buttons on your keyboard and put your answers below. I apologize about my voice today, guys. I'm having a really tough time making this video. I'm just really hoarse for some reason. No pun intended. I actually didn't plan to say that on this particular slide, but I guess it worked out pretty good. I told the kids I had trouble with handwriting when I was little. And a 5-year-old asked if it was because pins were made of feathers. If you didn't feel old already, this is a 110-year-old ship in my head. This is a 110-year-old ship in reality. That's just kind of messed up. Some of y'all never had to push your own car, then jump in and pop the clutch, and it shows. Worse yet, there's a lot of people today that doesn't understand why someone would do this. There are 3 Gen X era car seats headed in this picture. I disagree. There are at least 7 in my opinion. You got the 2 corners at the front of the cab. If the truck has a tailgate, you got the 2 corners at the rear. Then obviously you have the 2 wheel wells. You take the tire, move it to the center of the cab there, and somebody can sit on that. That's 7. If you really had to, someone could sit in the center of the bed, but that's the place that nobody wanted. Who remembers when bubblegum came with comics? Yeah, I'd always try to collect all the different ones. It's 1987. You've just been dropped off at the mall. What store are you hitting first? Radio Shack. You're a true 90s kid if you ever heard, "Get off the internet, I need to use the phone." Most of the time, they never asked. They just picked up the phone and interrupted your download. In the 80s, this was your Saturday morning. You know, somebody came out and said that this was one of the hidden Easter eggs that they had in the movies. It's actually kind of believable. I remember my grandpa had one of these. Do you remember these? My grandfather had skeleton keys that was even older than these. Jolt Cola, the grandfather of all energy drinks. How many of you remember the old 110 film cartridges? I remember my mom's camera used this. Name a struggle that today's kids will never know. Being forced to stay indoors. Because that's what they had to do to us. We were always outside. We hated being made to stay in the house. Today's generation hardly even touches the grass. You have to admit, this will be a pretty cool freezer for the garage. If someone offered you $1 million to watch the same movie for 24 hours straight, could you do it? And what movie do you choose? I absolutely could do it. I would force myself to do it. And as far as what movie would you choose, there's a lot of good answers. I'd probably just go with Back to the Future. Just like and share this video if you know what this is. I'd say most of the people here on the channel knows exactly what this is. I actually showed a newer model in a past episode. I am not old. Your music just sucks. Fact check true. There is many, many examples of this. The atomic fireball. These things were great. These has always been one of my favorite candies. But they stopped making them a few years ago. I didn't even know it. I guess it was about a year ago I started looking at the store for them. Usually they'd always come in a big bag, and I couldn't find them anywhere. So I looked it up online and found out they quit making them. You can still find some of the old stock that's left online, but most of it's ridiculously expensive. Now this was a great 90s TV show. How 80s kids became neighborhood legends. If you ever tried to solve one of these, this is a reminder that it's time to schedule your colonoscopy. No, not hardly. I will hit you so hard that words describing the impact will appear out of thin air. That's just hilarious when you think about it. If you played in the street and remember yelling, "Car," you had an awesome childhood. If you guys are enjoying the content, please remember to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos. Ewoks are just homeless Care Bears who lost their powers and got hooked on... You know, when you think about it, this could be true. I act like I'm fine, but deep down, I want Season 6 of Cobra Kai. I wonder if Tyler will finally make it in the cast this time. Some of you guys know who I'm talking about. My life goal was to make it 360 degrees around the top bar. Yeah, that's kind of like how life goals go. Eventually you find out that it's just not possible. Do you remember these? Actually, no, I don't remember these. I don't know if I just missed them or if I just can't remember them. We need to bring back movie theaters that look like they've been designed by a 5-year-old. Kids' movies when I was a child. Kids' movies today. Who remembers this hot... This was child abuse. No, it wasn't. Besides, it was our fault for getting on it. It'd burn you up going down, and what do? Turn around and run back up the ladder. If we had a bucket and there was some water nearby, you might pour it down there first. Or even some wet sand or something. This was actually a great show back in the day. Too bad he went woke now. How to frighten the new generation. Put them in a room with a rotary phone, an analog watch, and a TV with no remote. Then leave directions on how to use them in cursive. This is the only Mandela effect that I've never read a good explanation for. I know what I saw. And yes, I agree with the last part. And yes, their logo had the cornucopia, or the horn of plenty, whatever you want to call it. But now, they claim that never existed. The General Lee. The General Lee. That's just wrong. There is only one paint job that belongs on a smart car, and it's this. McDonald's called out order 867, and I yelled 5309, and nobody laughed. Then I felt old and ate my burger in the playground area. The gory years when the average child needed the physical acuity and instincts of a Navy SEAL just to survive a regular day at the playground. And the thing is, kids were in a lot better health because they actually got out and did stuff. You know, we actually got out and had fun. Today, all kids ever do is sit in front of a screen. Like I said earlier, they don't even hardly touch grass. There's nothing particularly wrong with being on a computer or even a phone. I mean, obviously I use them. I got a YouTube channel. But just to be on them almost 24/7 and never do anything else is just crazy. Who remembers these chairs? Yeah, we always had multiple of these. We also had the long ones, the recliner ones. I can't think of the name that I'm wanting, but it was the long ones where you could put your feet up, and then you could have the back sitting kind of like this one, or you could almost lay it down flat. We always had at least 2 of those. The lounge chairs, that's the name I'm trying to think of. Childhood meals, eat it or go without. Was this true in your house? To some degree, but not always 100%. The people of Gen Z haven't had to do any of this maintenance, and thus will never understand the pleasure of rolling those little mouse balls around in your hand. Yeah, you could clean these once or twice, but then you'd have to cook a new boiled egg to replace the yolk. This is an inside joke for some of you guys that's been watching the channel for a while now. If I remember right, that goes back to episode 4 of this series. For those of you that haven't seen that, you might want to go back and watch it. I think you get a pretty good kick out of it. Kids today won't know what these are. Remember glass soda bottles with styrofoam labels? Yeah, they always stayed colder a lot longer than what aluminum cans do. Who remembers books with records? Yeah, I had this exact same one, along with a bunch of others. Only difference was mine had the 45 records. You know you've tried it.
Fishy, fishy, fishy! One fish?
I'd forgotten all about this. But yeah, when I was a kid, I tried it. How many of you guys tried this when you were kids? Or maybe when you were adults, I don't know. I was never any good at fishing, so maybe I should have tried this more. 13-year-olds today are having relationship stress. When I was that age, I closed the fridge door slowly to see how the light goes off. Okay, children of the 80s, what's missing here? Well, I'm just gonna name 2. Number 1, wood paneling. I mean, that's obvious. Number 2, the big wooden floor model TV. What else do you guys think is missing? No one. We need a movie about arm wrestling truckers. 1980s. Go on, I'm listening. If you know the name of this movie, drop it in the comments. When somebody calls you back instead of just texting. I just ignore the call and let it go to voicemail. Find out if it's anyone I actually want to talk to. Why did no one tell me that the second controller in Duck Hunt controls the ducks? How many of you guys knew this? I had never heard about this before, but apparently it's right in the manual. Of course, who reads the manual? Horton here's a... Life was so much simpler when we could play a friendly game of Red Rover and just clothesline the people we didn't like. It's 1985 and you just bought this. What's the first song you play? Press the buttons on your keyboard and drop it in the comments below. Only Willie Nelson could look perfectly normal in this situation. I agree. With these specific characters there, he just fits right in with them. Blocking someone in the 90s. If you know what this is, smash the correct letters to make out your answer and put it down below. Name a TV show you loved that you wish they never would have canceled. Well, since this doesn't say it has to be the 80s or 90s, I'm going to jump up to a much newer series. Around 2006, there was a TV show called Jericho. I have the DVDs. Even though it was really popular, they almost ended it after the first season. They finally aired a short second season 2 years later, and ended it for good that time. If you guys have never seen it, you might try to look it up online. Or I'm sure there's still some of the DVDs out there floating around. Remember using a knife or spoon to pry the lid open? Yep, absolutely. Not strawberry though. I hated strawberry milk. This reminds me of a news article I had on one of the past episodes of Laugh While the World Burns that stated that 7% of Americans believe that chocolate milk came from brown cows. If you guys haven't checked out that series yet, I'll drop the link in the video description. Siblings as kids. Siblings as adults. Kids nowadays don't know nothing about these. Millennials, you all's getting old too. The good old days. Picture from 1986. Who remembers the Flowbee? This was a vacuum hair cutting system. That way you could cut your own hair without any mess. I actually saw a clip not too long ago of George Clooney, where he said that he's been using the Flowbee to cut his own hair for more than 20 years. I just thought that was kind of funny. How many of you guys remember this TV show? I think it was on PBS, maybe. I think this started just a little bit before Gen X, but I remember watching this when I was a kid. Congratulations! You just won a lifetime supply of the last thing you bought. What do you have? Well, I had to think about it, but the last time I bought anything was at Walmart. One of the items I bought was dog food. So that'd be really great if I had a lifetime supply of dog food. So what did you guys win a lifetime supply of? Drop it down in the comments. Kids, if you're trying to explain AI to Gen X and older, just tell them it's like Kit from Knight Rider. Maybe some of the older generations? But I don't see you having to explain AI to Gen X. It was Gen X that created and built the first computers, the first video games, the first GUI operating systems, and the beginning of the internet. And we've kept up with and continued on with all the technology that has happened since then. I may not keep up with the bleeding edge of new technology, mostly because it's just too expensive. But I think most of us Gen X still have a firm grasp of the new technology that's coming out these days. Do you remember waiting for that aerosol can to explode? Yeah, I remember that. I think I might have threw one in there last week. What's even better is if you have a few of them, and you know what bag they're in. When you have some other people that's around nearby, throw them in there and just wait for the reactions. Because that's something that nobody expects these days. Who would watch Jaws like this? No, I would not. I wouldn't watch any movie like this. Remember the days when grandmas looked like this? Yes, I do. You're 12, playing outside. It's 100 degrees and your mom brings out a handful of these. Which one do you grab? Lime, the green one. First, every time. It was the best one out of all the flavors. And it still is, by the way. Grape would be my second choice, and third maybe orange. What's your all's top 3 choices? You think you're all that in a bag of chips, huh? Me. The problem with today's kids can be summed up in one simple fact. They've never played dodgeball in PE class. If somehow dodgeball was allowed in schools today, I can't even imagine what the rules would be, or even what the goals would be. Remember fitting 3 people in the front seat? Look at all that leg space. I wish my dad's car had that kind of leg room. I can't hardly get in and out of it, let alone my dad, who's 83 and has a number of health problems. When you heard this was a thing, who dreamed of having this? Diplomatic immunity. When was the first time you guys learned of this? Was it from the news or the movies? So, how did you get into classical music? Me. Back when it was considered rude not to have an ashtray at the dinner table. Simpler times. Scared, Potter?
Horse hockey!
This is why women live longer. Hey, who else is gonna go up and fix the antenna? Things I thought I would have as an adult. A thriving career, an amazing social life, an impressive retirement account. Things I actually have as an adult. A plastic bag filled with plastic bags, a favorite spatula, crippling anxiety, and a box full of prescription meds. Pac-Man grossed $1 billion in quarters in its first year of release. And the following year, 1982, it earned $6 billion in quarters, which was more than the combined amount of money spent in Vegas casinos and U.S. movie theaters that year. And that's how they learned it was easier to target the children than it was the parents. Which list is your top choice? All 4 of them have some great titles. But if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with number 2. Name an 80s TV character that you can identify just by their voice. Well, right here's a prime example. Alf. What's your all's number 1 answer? Jean-Claude Van Damme as the original 1987 Predator. That movie could have turned out a whole different way. I hope all dogs go to heaven. Except for this dog. This dog can go straight to... Before switching HDMI inputs, we had these. I fell off my bike in 1986 and hurt my knee. I'm telling you now because we didn't have social media in those days. That story there is pretty tame to a lot of the injuries that we had back in the day. All you guys are proof of that. There's a good number of stories that I've read in the comments. That's pretty impressive. MTV, music television. All day, all night. The music never stops. So call your cable company and tell them that you long for MTV. Well, the music stopped a long time ago. My favorite Disney movie. What's yours? Back when Disney actually made new movies instead of just remakes of the remakes. When you're wearing socks and step into something wet. Why is this so true? If you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. If you know what this dance is, then you are an original. It's 1984. I buy tickets to see Ghostbusters and Dune. It's 2021. I buy tickets to see Ghostbusters and Dune. It's 2024. I buy tickets to see Ghostbusters and Dune. Click on one of the videos above to help support the channel. Please hit that like button and subscribe. I thank you all for watching. This is Akorn, over and out.